If you're someone who's still skeptical about going to therapy, this video is for you. I've been going to therapy since 2018, so that's about 6 years. I think it's very important for people to go to therapy. Therapy is amazing. And I broke the video up into 5 things that I could come up with off the top of my head. Obviously there's more, but these are the 5 things that I came up with just off the top of my head that I feel like are reasons why you should start going to therapy. The first reason why you should start going to therapy is because there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. I know that there's a lot of people who think, like when I tell people, have you ever thought about going to therapy? Instantly they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Like I don't need to go to therapy. It's like, bro, nothing has to be wrong with you for you to go to therapy. It's very natural, very normal for you to go to therapy. You learn a lot about yourself by going to therapy not saying that you wouldn't have learned it if you hadn't gone to therapy, but in my opinion, you just learn it a lot faster when you go to therapy. Reason number 2 why I think you should go to therapy, I think it's very beneficial for you to get advice from someone who's not a family member or a friend. Because when you get advice from a family member or a friend, it's not to say that it's bad advice. However, getting advice from somebody who isn't a relative or somebody who has like an emotional attachment to you, it's an unbiased opinion. More times than not, when you receive advice from your friends or family, they give you the advice from the perspective of how they would do something. When I think back to advice that my therapist gives me when I'm dealing with something, rarely is it ever from this is how you should or shouldn't do it. It's just, this is what I did. And my therapist kind of helps me to formulate my own thoughts and figure out like, okay, well, there's just an option. It's more of like giving you the information that you need to just help you formulate your opinion better. Yeah, you don't feel bad for making a decision because you're no longer viewing it as this is the right decision, this is the wrong decision. It's just your decision, your choice on how you want to live your life. 3, it helps you become a better listener. When you're able to listen to people, it helps you develop better relationships. I can't stress how many times I go around just living my everyday life, asking people genuinely how they're doing and actively listening and just seeing how much like you get out of a person when you actually take the time to listen to what they're saying. Because it's sad to say, but there's a lot of people who don't get that, I'm not saying it to say like, oh, go out and be everybody's therapist. I'm not saying that at all. But there's a lot of benefits to listening, to being a good listener, because you start to learn from other people's experiences. You're always in the student mentality, which is also like the growth mindset mentality, where you're always seeking out information and learning from other people's experiences or just different avenues of your life. When you feel like you know it all, you quickly realize that you know nothing, and that kind of limits your growth. So yeah, it's really good to listen to people and just listen overall. The 4th reason why I think you should go to therapy is because it helps you build emotional intelligence. I think this is like damn near the best thing about going to therapy, because your emotional intelligence has a direct reflection on the quality of life that you want to live. That's the best way I could put it. Being able to recognize an emotion for what it is, an emotion, and not judging yourself for it or saying like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way or I shouldn't feel that way. The reality is that you do feel this way, and going to therapy helps you understand that it's okay to feel these emotions, good or bad. There's not really good or bad emotions, it's just emotions. And I don't think that we learn how to do that in a healthy way, which is why we have so many people who go about their lives like unhinged, to say the least. And yeah, it's really difficult to make sound decisions when you have low emotional intelligence. So yeah. And then the last thing, I think the 5th and final thing that I feel like is the most important reason on why you should start going to therapy is that it helps you start to fall in love with yourself. I'm a lover boy, always have been, always will be. I'm a extreme advocate for love. And the thing that I've noticed through going to therapy is that you can only love somebody to the extent in which you love yourself. And if you don't know how to love yourself, you'll kind of just accept anything. You'll accept the bare minimum and think that that is love, or that is the benchmark for your love. But when you go to therapy and you start to unlearn toxic traits and you start to be gentler with yourself and you start to learn how to manage and deal with your emotions you quickly start to distance yourself from people who you see like, man, this isn't somebody who I really want around me. Like, they don't make me feel good. Yeah, you start to just live a better quality of life because you're not basing your happiness on the love that you receive from others. You're basing your happiness on the love that you receive from yourself, which is the only one that really matters, to say the least, because you're gonna be with yourself for the rest of your life. If you don't have you, it's like, bro, you're cooked. You know? So yeah, hopefully this video was helpful, but let me know what you guys think. If you guys think that, you know, man, I ain't crazy, I ain't trying to go to therapy, by all means. I just wanted to share my experience because I feel as though that therapy has been very beneficial for my life. And I think that it could be beneficial for yours as well. And I was fortunate enough to find one therapist and keep the same therapist for 6 years. A lot of people don't get that lucky. It may take you a few therapists to get the right therapist. I like to tell people that giving your therapist maybe about 6 months to a year. I know people, you know, they'll say that that's a long time, but in my opinion, it really is important to give like that period of like trial and error to really get a good sense like, okay, is this a therapist for me? Or if not, and if it isn't, that's okay. Just continue to just be open to it. That's all I'm asking. So if you take anything away from this video, is that I just want you to be open to it, because I think that therapy can and will change your life if you actually give it a chance.
I realize a lot. Relationships, they can't ever work if your heart got a block. And my shit was hard as a rock. And not because all of the shit that you did, I didn't wanna look inside. I had a difficulty being vulnerable. It took control of my life. When I lost you, that's when I found myself. Fucking with you was bad for my health. All of that time that we spent, I ain't never gonna regret it. I'ma just let it flow. Let it go, had to swallow that pill. I ain't wanted to feel numb, I just wanted to feel some. We've been doing shit so wrong for so long.